He said, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful.
Was ever a dream? Darn them.
Hi, I'm Ubong Matthew, founder of An Hour with a Manager. This platform was created to solve a real challenge we saw across African professional spaces, which is the gap between ambition and structured leadership. Because a better manager will build a better Africa, and the world needs both. Welcome to another episode of An Hour with a Manager, Africa's premier digital podcast platform where we listen, learn, and build the next generation of African leaders. In this episode, which will continue with our October theme on transforming Africa's global economy, we're exploring African business and how they adapt, scale, and thrive in diverse international markets. Our guest today, Sindy, will introduce herself, but I'm going to promise you one thing, that this conversation is going to be impactful. We're going to unpack practical insights, case studies, and tools that can reshape the next generation of African leaders. And thank you, Sindy Njongo, for joining us today. How are you? And please, can you, for the benefit of those who are meeting you for the first time, please do introduce yourself to us.
Thank you very much, Ubong. Hello, everyone. I'm called Jongo Sindy. I am an agri-influencer. I am a bee farmer, and I am the founder of 3 organizations. I also run an Agritech startup in bee farming, and it's a very good pleasure to be here. Thank you, Ubong, for inviting me.
For the benefit of those who are still trying to understand more about Swamp Deck and the startup and all that you've been doing through your journey, can you take us back to your history? I know you've talked about being an agri entrepreneur and innovator. How has that been, and how has the journey been like from when you started to where you are today?
Well, the journey was not easy. It was very difficult and faced a lot of challenges. Initially, I didn't want to pursue a career in agriculture, but thanks to my father who forced me to study agriculture in the university, I initially during the process learned to love agriculture. And while in
Okay.
agriculture, I developed passion for bee farmer as a climate
Okay.
activist.
Okay.
So I joined the agriculture, I joined the bee world, and there I realized that bee farmers face this problem known as swarming. Swarming refers to the
Okay.
natural division of a bee colony, leading to up to 50% losses. And we all know that bee farming contributes about 406 billion annually to global agriculture. And it's estimated that by 2030, if action is not taken, our bee population is going to be lost by 50%. So while working with local farmers and they complaining a lot about this swarming, I was so curious. And even my lecturer told me that there is no solution for swarming. So I asked myself this question, if not me, who then? That's when I came out with this idea to build a solar powered IoT kit that will help provide early warning signals against swarming in bee farming. And that's where the journey began. Yeah, I built it and yeah, in the process.
Okay, so talking about Swamp Deck and bee farming, right? What have been some of the challenges you faced? I know backstage you talked about doing this as one of your projects from school, but what are some of the challenges you encountered before you were able to say, oh, this is a solution that we as Africans we actually need to implement into our businesses or into agriculture itself for the wider community?
So initially, my project was to last for 3 months. I initially estimated that it was going to last for 3 months. That is from April to July.
Okay.
Yes. By the end of May, I didn't even like I had not even yet conceived. Like I didn't know where to start. My head was just scattered. And since it was an academic project I started with, my group mates had already gone far. Some were already done with their project, and I had not even yet begun. To the extent that my supervisor was telling me that I'm not serious. So I had to look for this guy. I had to look for someone who is really into tech so that he could help me uh come up but build my device the way I wanted it. So I met him, I described everything to him. Also asked him to go and do a lot of research. So he did it. We joined hands now. And yeah, it was not easy because I remember that I tested in the lab, like in the I had to use the electrical engineering lab of my university. That's not what I'm into. But they had to be seeing me often in their lab just because I was trying to test my device. I
Okay.
tested it about 5 times with no success on campus. I
Okay.
remember this day I had to go and present part of my work to my supervisor, and when I arrived there, everything got bad. Like the microcontroller got bad on the spot. I was so frustrated that I just began crying. And I also remember that I spent sleepless nights working. At times, I would text my supervisor, sir, I don't want to continue on this topic. Please, can you change? But just because he had that confidence in me, he had to encourage me. And one of the most encouraging words that my supervisor gave me was that, Cindy, this thing you're doing is more than a PhD topic, like more than a PhD research topic. So
Okay.
that particular sentence you need to make, it really encouraged me to push going forward. And while in the process, I remember recording my experience because at times I will reach my house by 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning just because I was trying to work on the device. Now, building the device was not even the issue. The main issue here was, ah, the main issue here was building our web interface. We built the web interface. I cried, like I literally cried. I remember that we tested it for more than 30 times and everything failed. So the journey has not been easy. I also faced a lot of discouragement. I also like some of my peers who come to me and they'll be like, why don't you do something very simple? Why do you want to do something extraordinary? So the journey was not easy. There was a lot of mental breakdown, but I thank God that it was successful.
Okay, so with all of the challenges and difficulties you experience while trying to build this system, right? How has the system itself, from just being a test process, been able to impact the community where this bee farm is being served? And for the benefits of those who are listening, Cindy is joining us from Cameroon, who is our first guest from Cameroon. And how has this impacted, and how do you see this to be used in the global market or in the African market to also help other bee farmers, right, to be able to, navigate those challenges they might be having in their bee farms?
So I finished building the device this August. I was done with the device this August. So, and where I'm currently located in Cameroon, we have, we were at the peak of the rainy season. So there was no way I could test it. Bees are very, very susceptible to rain. And
Okay.
me as a bee farmer will not bear that risk of opening my hive during the peak of the rainy season. So I told myself that,
Okay.
okay, since I have already tried this device using different metrics and it
Yeah.
works, I'm going to do this during the dry season where the environment is good and it will not cause any harm to the bees.
Okay.
And for the device, what makes my device to stand out is the fact that it's built to work, it's built, first of all, work with Epic Militaria than Sonai, which is a bee
Okay.
species found only in Cameroon. So there are other devices out there that have been done on different base species, but none has been done in Cameroon. And with my device, it is already establishing ground data in the bee sector in Cameroon. Bee farming in Cameroon doesn't have a lot of ground data, and that's one of the main issues I faced. There was no available ground data that could help facilitate my work. So I am
Okay.
already building the ground data, and I'm planning that by the end of the rains, I'm going to take it to the field, test it, and and start improving on the device.
Let's look at it in the point of when you were testing it in regards to even trying to understand the system itself, because we would also like to see how the system looks, right? How what were some of the things you've seen that this device can be very, very effective for bee farmers?
Okay. First of all, it is very easy to use. The interface is very, very easy. to navigate and use as a bee farmer. It's not complicated. And secondly, we have this other problem in bee farming known as absconding. Absconding is a
Okay.
situation where bees will abandon everything in the beehive and go to a new location due
Okay.
to the fact that there has been nuisance or disturbance. So if a bee farmer can set up my heat in his farm and monitor it remotely, it's going to reduce
Okay.
that problem. It's going to remove that problem. So my demand is not only increasing productivity. In fact, it is increasing productivity and at the same time very small labor is needed. So you just have to set it up in your farm and you monitor it remotely. And monitoring it remotely, most device will need internet, but my device works without the internet.
Wow.
So the farmer
That's
doesn't have to
amazing.
be the farmer doesn't have to be paying money or paying some data
For
fees in order
data.
to access. Yes, you don't have to pay for data. You access everything offline without the internet.
Okay. So with understanding, it means that I as a farmer or I as a bee farmer, I probably don't really need data to be able to access this technology, and that is beautiful. So now you being a youth leader in the agricultural space, being able to work with different organizations, both international and national organizations, right? What are some of the key agricultural programs, right, or motivations that you see that can be embraced in farming for the common person or for other youth like yourself who might be getting involved into agriculture? What are some of these motivations that they should be looking at for them to embrace and get into farming?
Okay, what I would say is I know a lot of youth out there who have beautiful ideas, but just for the fact that they can't get the finance to make their project realistic feels a deal for them. So if our governments can start looking into financing youth like agri innovative projects,
Okay.
it's going to go a very long way to improve on our agri sectors. And also as a climate activist, I'll obviously talk about our governments, our CSOs and international organizations to make sure that climate finance is actually taken down to the grassroots level. There are so
Okay.
many youths in our grassroots community that have a lot of innovative ideas, but just for the fact that they don't have the funds, it makes everything very difficult for them. And at times this fund is actually allocated, but the leaders we have, let me just say,
Accessibility.
if I'm the lead for the project, I want to bring my relatives to, take the money. They'll come out with a project from nowhere, collect the money, and those that have the real ideas will not really benefit from it. So climate finance should be implemented. Agri policies favoring the youth should be implemented, as well as transparency and accountability when it comes to agri finance and climate financing. And youth too green projects should be highly encouraged. For example, my device is a green project because we are using solar powered to power the device. So it captures solar energy, stores it in the battery, and during night time, the power that has been stored on the battery is what keeps it running, and
Okay.
it runs like that. It runs 2/7. So our government, our NGOs, our TSOs should be able to look into this type of project and sponsor.
So, with all you've been doing the past couple of years and still moving forward, right? Can you share like a standout project from all the youth empowerment initiatives you engaged in that still gives you that reason to always want to support, to always want to volunteer, always want to go into, to push forward for the youth in the agricultural space?
Okay, I'm going to talk about two. Now, this one was a green project competition by World Wildlife Fund and MTN and the MTN Group. So, and it's still all about my project. So when I started my project, I was still at the ideation stage. But those that make my project to be realistic, the MTN group and the World Wildlife Fund, they believed in me even when I didn't have the confidence to believe in myself. They have been the one guiding me step by step on how to do everything. And there is this organization that I work for. We call it the Africa Climate and Environment Foundation, AC. So we
Okay.
are based at we are all over Africa, and through my project, had the opportunity to visit the I had the opportunity to visit the head office in Kenya, which is actually located in Mombasa. And while in
Okay.
Mombasa, I saw how communities are passionate about agriculture. One of the things that really stood out for me was mariculture. So since this community is actually located at a coastal area, these people use solar energy to pump water from the sea, like sea water.
Yeah.
Then before pumping the water, they have ponds already available, artificial ponds. So they pump water into these ponds, then they rear the same species of fish that is found in the ocean so as to
Okay.
reduce overfishing. Then
Yeah.
I was so inspired again when I saw this particular community practicing mangrove restoration and conservation with the same time integrating bee farming. When I arrived in the community, the first thing that caught my attention were the beehives around the mangroves. So I was like, I've never seen this thing before. So it was so innovative. And even with the fishes that these people rear in their ponds, they use black soldier fly to feed. So the whole
Okay.
stuff was actually really innovative. And to this project, we are so thankful to UNDP Rome for believing in us and sponsoring us.
Wow, that's a lot of engagement, and I believe the youth of today should be able to also engage in or volunteer to programs and projects, right? Because, like you've mentioned, it would expose you and give you insights to different opportunities, different things you probably didn't expect would be based on maybe might be limitations of your location, but by being able to engage in other cities, other communities, you can as well outside of your state, outside of your country you can as well have access to some of this information. But I want us to quickly share some of the things regarding the talking about your leadership process. I know you've not been working alone; you've been working with a team, right? So, what are some of these advocacy processes, or maybe scaling agricultural processes you think should be implemented for? That's the role of policies, right? Like, what kind of policy should be implemented for sound innovation, most especially to be implemented in Africa or agriculture itself?
Okay, now talking about policy, I always think that before any policy is implemented, a youth has to be on board. Now, we are the leaders of tomorrow, but that doesn't mean that we need to wait for tomorrow before we start carrying out leadership activities. We are leaders of tomorrow, and our governance starts today. So, for any policy to be effective in any sector, it must involve the youth. And for the policy I'm about to talk about, I will still talk about the agri financing, where youth projects like our governments or our yes, the government should be able to spotlight these youths who are really bringing change to their communities or the agri space. Spotlight them, give them the exposure. I believe that this is going to help them so much too. It's going to give them that confidence to keep on doing what they are doing, and also it's going to draw many sponsors and funders to them. And also, the one of the things that I also realized in my community, I spoke of transparency and accountability. There's no transparency, there's no accountability. They'll send out a communique that they are sponsoring this particular project. You submit your project and you will never see it. Now, I had this friend of mine who had this particular project. It was actually very good. So this guy uh deposited his application, but at the end of the day, can you imagine that this guy didn't see anything from them? And what he saw next was really shocking. So his idea was taken by those people and implemented, but they told him that his project was not selected. So we need transparency, we need accountability. The government needs to fund agri projects as well as climate financing. Any project that is eco-friendly should be supported. Also,
Okay.
youth empowerment programs too should be put in place. There are so many youths out there who have crazy ideas that they don't know how to go about. But if there are youth empowerment programs that can help them, they will know how to navigate these things, this stuff when it comes to yeah.
All right, so let's take it a little bit. Maybe let's be futuristic, right? So, what are some of these technological advancements that you see in the next 5 years that will be transformational in the agricultural space, particularly to also support here in agriculture or here in Africa for it to be very effective? Like, what are some of those transformational processes or technological advancement that we're looking at in the next 5 years or 10 years or thereabouts that will be very, very transformational in Africa and agricultural sector itself?
Okay, I see precision agriculture, the integration of IoTs and AI. That is the future. The future is AI. This is not even debatable. So we need to start looking into building innovative technologies that work in the area of precision agriculture.
Okay.
And also we need to start looking at agroecology practices
Okay.
that improves productivity, maximize yield, and at the same time uses less resources. And with
So,
this agroecology, okay,
yeah, please go ahead.
so I need to talk about this agroecology. With the agroecology too, farmers or youths, they don't just have to see youths in other countries or in other communities growing a particular type of crop and making money, but they need to ask themselves, which agroecological zone do I belong to? And they start growing crops that are favorable for that agroecological zone. Because I've realized that there are so many youths that like to do, in fact, there are so many youths who are copycats out there. Just for the fact that I am doing this thing and succeeding, you feel like you too need to do this particular thing that I'm doing. So for you to do anything, or for you to cultivate any crop or rear any animal, check your agroecological zone before you go into it. Then I also talk about farming and hydroponics. The youth need to start practicing this. Gone are the days where everyone thinks that you can only grow crops on the soil. No, technology is evolving, things are changing. We need to start learning how to carry out vertical farming. We need to start learning about hydroponics. I mean, I learned hydroponics when I was in university. So just to tell you how youths don't know that something like that exists. And it was through a lecturer who came to school and he introduced this. And I was so curious and I began practicing it. And like, do you even know that this thing is so cost effective? There's so many farmers out there they don't know. So if hydroponics and vertical farming can be integrated, it's going to make things very easier for us, especially those in the urban areas. Then I also talk about blockchain transparency. We grow a
Yeah.
lot of food, we grow a lot of animals, yes, but no traceability. If you buy something you eat, it disturbs you, but or for example, let's say there is the African swine fever is out, and maybe you are a pig farmer, you make your pork, you take it to the supermarket, you deliver there, you don't have any labeling on your product, and
Yeah.
I as a citizen comes, buys it, goes and eats, and I have issues with my health. Now,
Okay.
if there is no blockchain transparency, how are we going to detect where that is coming from? If there is no
Okay.
blockchain transparency, there will be no food safety. So we need to
Yeah.
start practicing blockchain transparency. We need to venture into farming and hydroponics. We need to start considering agroecology and sustainable practices, as well as we need to start implementing precision agriculture. And now this thing needs to be compulsory. They don't need to be optional. Our government needs to make sure that all these practices are compulsory. Because if these practices are not compulsory, there is no way that we are going to achieve the food security that we want.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. And I just have two quick questions before we wrap up this conversation, just in a few minutes. One, I'd like you to just have us just give a very quick of maybe 5 to 10 seconds of let's see how your IoT product looks like if you have it there with you. One, and then the other thing is for our viewers and listeners who are out there in different parts of Africa, what is one take you would have to share as a youth leader, as an agricultural innovator that we should be able to adopt and learn while listening to this conversation or watching this conversation, to also be able to motivate us and keep us on the go, to know that we all can actually make a move or do something.
So this is how the device looks like. We have different components. We have the microcontroller, we have the preamplifier, we have different parts. We have the acoustic sensors that picks the signals from the hive. When it picks
Okay.
the signals from the hive, the preamplifier makes sure that it falls within the frequency range that predicts swarming. When it from then now, it's then now sent to our web interface. The web interface then now analyzes it, and we have this frequency spectrum that displays tell us if the bees are about to swarm or not. And on our
Yeah.
frequency spectrum, we have 5,000 samples that are displayed every 100 milliseconds.
Okay.
From there, the farmer carries out timely intervention, which means more bee colonies. And using the example of Cameroon, who produces 3,000 tons of honey annually,
Okay.
our device is, before coming to that, our device is aimed at reducing swarming by 15 to 30% and increasing honey production by 40%. Now,
Okay.
increasing uh, honey to 40% now, and at the same time, boosting honey production by 15 to 25%. So if our device is able to increase honey production by 15%, it means that there is an additional 450 kg of honey that is provided to the economy of Cameroon, and
Yeah.
which means an additional 215 million contributed to the economy of Cameroon
Yeah.
annually.
Okay.
Yes.
So, for the benefits of time, because I would have loved us to probably go over the products as much as possible. Maybe we will have that on our next conversation. But can you just, like I had mentioned, maybe give us a last word for our listeners and our viewers who are actually going to be who are actually engaging in this conversation, right? To also maybe something to motivate other youth innovators or agri-print or agri-tech innovators, right? To understand why it is important to also involve or engage in things like this for for food sustainability and for agricultural innovations.
Okay, the first thing I would say is you need to be a visionary thinker. You need to be able to predict our future opportunities and challenges in the
Okay.
agri space. Now, when you're able to predict the opportunities and challenges, it's going to help you to come out with something very innovative that will help the future.
Okay.
And also, you need to collaborate and partner with people. Now, when I was building this device, I could not do everything by myself because I'm more of the biology person. So I needed to look for someone who is into the tech space to compile everything, to make our device, to materialize our, or to bring it to reality. And
Okay.
aside from that, I also had to work with stakeholders in my community. I present my ideas to them, and those that love it, they support my idea. So just
Okay.
because you're the one who has the idea doesn't mean that you don't have to partner with others. No, you need to partner with people. There is this saying that I always tell my friends: there is there is fundraising before fundraising. So always
Okay.
make sure, always have that open heart to partner, to collaborate, to network with people in your community. And also, you need to be someone who is very adaptable to any situation. Any situation you find yourself in, always try to adapt yourself. And when you adapt yourself, always try to bring in something very innovative.
Thank you very much, Sindy, for that. And before I leave our viewers today, I just want to share a book from what the World Bank talking about agricultural innovation systems. It says it's more of sharing key strategies for agricultural innovation ecosystem. So I would really recommend you listen to, or you have a read of that, have a read of the article, read more about agricultural innovation, and also most especially how it's going to impact Africa. And I'm going to also leave us here with 4 practical exercises that we should also be able to implement as leaders, as managers and entrepreneurs who are listening to this conversation today. Saying 1, identify local farming challenges and brainstorm innovation tech or social solutions, just like you've heard our guest said. The other one is design a youth-focused agriculture training session, which will foster entrepreneurship and skills development. And this can be done by working hand in hand with the government or local communities or individuals, and analyze existing agri policies and find areas to advocate inclusion of youth and ethical governance, because we can't do this alone, just like I mentioned on the second point. And the last point there is evaluate a current agricultural project transparency and accountability process. But all of that, at the end of the day, we are not just having this conversation just to talk about agriculture or alone, but we are having this conversation so that you who is listening, who is watching, can also be motivated to understand that even the 1 acre of farm you have around you, even the person who is actually building a software can actually work with you. If you're a farmer, you can work with a tech person. If you're a tech person, you can work with an agriculturist to also support in sustainability and food sustainability in agriculture, and most especially in Africa as a continent, because we are already saying agriculture already provides 23% of the continent's GDP. How much more if we actually engage more of that with the spare lands we have, over 200 million plus from different countries? I believe if we work together, we'll be able to have more than just 23%, but rather maybe 100% or thereabouts. But I want to say thank you very much, everybody, for listening to An Hour with the Manager episode this month, and for being patient with us to also engage on transforming Africa's global economy and agriculture itself. And if you found this episode very valuable, please don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share with everyone around you. And also follow our guests on LinkedIn, follow them on all their social media platforms, Sindy Ngwongu, on Jongu, and you'll be able to connect, and Jongu, thank you. And you'll be able to connect and ask all the questions you might want to ask, or preferably, you can as well reach out to us at any point in time. But for the meantime, I'll leave every one of us with this quote from Agricultural Innovation System that says, agricultural innovation systems are fundamental to economic growth, poverty alleviation, and environmental sustainability success. Successful agricultural innovation systems depend on collaborative governance, building innovation networks, and enhancing capabilities across the agricultural value chain. Until next time, keep growing, keep leading, and keep bridging Africa's world, one conversation at a time. Thank you very much, Sindy, for the time, and we'll look forward to having you on our next conversation. And please keep inspiring more youth around your community, and don't forget, we only have ourselves to be able to support, and we'll continue to build the next generation of African leaders. Thank you very much, Sindy.
Thank you.
And we'll keep tabs here. Have a wonderful day.
Going back in the bed, jumping on the stage. You know, that was just a gamble.